So we are doing lesson 3 today from the Prayerbook Hebrew lesson book. We're going to take a look by coming here first, which means we've got a very brief review of last chapter of what we know up till now. Let's see if we can. They hope that you're able to read and translate these sentences. I'm going to make them big enough maybe for you to see. Sentence number 1 is mi ata, which means
who are you?
Who are you? And
you're talking to a man.
Yep, you're talking to a guy. And then number 2 says ani Moshe, and I want to point out the double duty dot here. I don't know if it's going to give it to me. Nope, you're going to see my pointer instead. This is a double duty dot. It's the O dot for the mem, and it's also the shin dot, ani Moshe, which means, I think Marla is the only one not muted. You guys want to unmute and give answers, you're welcome to. Ani Moshe means I am Moses. Number 3 is mi'at, which is also who are you, but in this case, at is feminine. We're talking to a female, to a woman, a person, a female, could be a girl. Mi'at, who are you? And this could be an answer to number 3, where you say ani Leah, I am Leah. And we remember that ani is, what color is that? Green, neutral. And then we could ask mizot, who is this? Mizot, who is this? And that's asking of a feminine. Although the reality is, if the question is me or ma, then if you don't know if someone is masculine or feminine, if you don't know what it is, it's not inappropriate to say either ze or zot. Like if I lifted something up like this and I say, you know, ma ze, whatever it is, and you don't know what it is, you don't know if it's masculine or feminine. So I know people who are in the habit of always using zot. I don't know why. And I know some people who are always in the habit of using ze, and I don't know why. But if like you come and you're bringing your daughter and I have never met your daughter, and I say, who is this that you brought with you? I might say mizot, and I know. So you can know if it's you're welcome to know or not know. It's okay. Mizot. Who is this? That's feminine's this. And the answer could be zot Sarah or zot Sarah, zot Sarah or zot Sarah. This is Sarah. Mi hamelech, who is the king? Mi hamelech, who is the king? And the answer is Moshe hamelech. Moses is the king. So that was our oral review. And I had said that I was going to try to put that, I was going to put that somewhere, but I didn't. These words are really big. I'm getting there. We can use the book for the vocabulary. We can also, on this page, you're welcome to just double click on this and see it like that, or use it from the book. And so the first name today in the prayer book Hebrew is Avraham. That's our noun, our proper noun. That's Abraham, Avraham. And then we have Ele, which means these, and it is for either masculine group of things or feminine group of things or mixed group of things. Those are our 3 categories when we're talking plural, masculine, mixed, or feminine. It is essentially the plural of ze, it is the plural of zot, and it is the plural of ze and zot. Ele. I wanted to point out that, I mean, I'm sad about this. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. It does have a dagesh in the lamed, and anybody who knows anything about dagesh rules, it will stress you why it has it there, but it has it there because it's an anomaly, and don't ask. We could talk about that one day. That one is way above your grade. It just is. That's what, for now, I'm just going to say, for now, just live like that. Then we have the word davar. Davar means a word or a thing. It is masculine. The word hem is kind of the plural of who, but it's also the plural of who and he, because when you have a word that is plural and masculine, it is also plural and mixed. It is very, very, very rare that you can look at a plural of something that is masculine and know that you only mean guys. If you look at the plural of a feminine thing like hen, then you know that it's only women in this group. In fact, it was only a few years ago, like very few years ago, that the Vad HaIvrit, the Hebrew a National Hebrew Committee that gets to determine words and grammar and things in Israel, which they exist. So there's a committee still that does that. Only a few years ago, it decided that if you have, I mean, there was kind of always a joke that said if you have 1,000 women and 1 man, you still were supposed to use the masculine or mixed plural. And so they finally said, no, if you have 1,000 women and 1 man, you can use the feminine. If the obvious majority is feminine, then you can use feminine. But hem is masculine or mixed, and hen is only feminine-ish. V and that little dash there means you're prefixing it directly to a word. So by the way, I would add in my book or in my notes, I would add masculine or mixed. M is masculine or mixed for him. V is prefix. Sorry to go back to this. V means and. It is the conjunction and. So it's prefixed directly to a word. I'm going to tell you there's going to be repercussions because you have a moving schwa here. There will be repercussions there. And that means you're almost old enough for me to tell you the rules about the vowels. We have the name Leah, which is Leah. We have the word Torah, which is Torah. Leah, by the way, is feminine. It's a girl's name. Torah is feminine. It ends in A. And they're going to show you very blurry. It's making me dizzy looking at this. That masculine nouns are indicated by M and feminine nouns are indicated by F. As it is in almost everything. All right, I'm gonna zoom, I'm gonna pull back on this one. And we're going to learn something about plurals. And I think this is the next page. So is there something below that? No, that's it. All right, so we're gonna learn masculine and feminine plurals. So usually, it's not fair. This is what I wanna tell you. If we're talking nouns, and we're saying that im is the plural ending, when you see im at the end of a word, it will tell you that it is a plural word, unless it's a word like Elohim, which is a really popular word, but it's not plural. But if you see im, then you know that it's plural. And if you see ot, then you know that it's plural. Those are plural markers at the end of words. I am going to tell you, I will stake my life on this, that it's something like 60-40, maybe it's 65-35, for nouns, that if you see im, that it's masculine or mixed. That if you see ot, it is feminine. For adjectives, which we don't have yet, and for verbs, present tense verbs, 100% of the time, if you see im, it is masculine or mixed. 100% of the time on an adjective or a verb, if you see ot, it is feminine plural, 100% of the time. But for nouns, you cannot know by looking at the plural, and you see an im, you cannot know by looking at the plural of the noun if it is masculine or feminine. You have to think about the singular, or be really happy if you can find an adjective or a verb, because then it will tell you 100% of the time with accuracy. So let's take a look at this. This is mean. There are other words that they could have used that might have made life a little bit easier for you. But here we have the word melech, king, and the plural is melachim. Notice that there's a whole lot of vowel change going on there. You don't have meh, you don't have the happening at all anymore. And I'm here to tell you, just like we know that melech means is a segolate, and that the accent's always on the first 100% of the time. When you have an noun, that the plural is going to go to will always do that. That's going to be the pattern. The is going to a shva kamatz, 100% of the time. Do that. Melech, or 99.9% of the time. Melech is going to be melachim. If you had another word that was an word, it's going to go to So that's a pattern that you can know. Why is it going to an I don't know. That one is, I have no idea. That's not a, well, maybe I could figure it out, but just know that it will. Davar, I can tell you 100% that I love this reason, but davar is going to divarim. And so we see a little bit of a vowel change here. We go from davar to divarim. And what is that? We'll say it together, propretonic reduction of the kamatz. That when you have a kamatz, then if you have a kamatz, and the word is davar, and the accent's in the second syllable, and then you add something to the end of the word, so it becomes the before the accented syllable, which is the propretonic. It will always turn into a shva. That's the propretonic reduction of the kamatz. Don't worry about it yet, but know that it does, and know that divarim is the plural of davar. Marla.
I want to go back to melech.
Yes.
The word ends in a final.
Right, because it's a three-letter word. Melech.
Okay, but it's the cuff is at the end, so it's a final cuff.
Mhm.
Does every word that ends with a final consonant change to the regular every time?
It 100% of the time. So the only time you're going to see the final letter, obviously, is when it's in the final position. And you probably never thought about it before.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So it will always go to that. So the fun part is the other way around too. So if you see the word melachim, then you can guess that the singular is going to be melech, and it's going to need the final version, or in the other way. So part of the problem is, if you're used to learning the vocabulary by its shape, remember that this is a final chaf, and it's only a final chaf because in this version of the word, it only has 3 letters. There's no suffix for plural ending, and it will always require the chaf to change from the final letter to the not final letter when it's in the middle of the word.
So if it was a final mem, it would turn into a regular mem.
Exactly.
And so up the line.
100% of the time. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. It's not the end of the word anymore. But the problem is that when we learn the vocabulary, we think of it as that shape, and then it's not going to stay that shape. And that's part of why I tell you, there are other things about that there are going to be other repercussions like that. Like sometimes you're going to have a bet and it's going to turn into a vet because of the way it is in the word, or vice versa. And when we're learning the letters, it makes sense to think of like chaf as a totally separate letter from a final chaf, because they have different shapes and they feel different, or a bet and a vet, they feel different. So you pretend that vet really exists. Vet doesn't exist separately from a bet. It's the same letter. It's just, it depends on where it is in the word. And chaf, final chaf, doesn't exist by itself. It just has to do with where it is in the word. So let that sink in. Because this is one of your, you've been exposed to Hebrew all of your life, and oh my gosh, I never noticed this before. This is one of these blow your mind kind of moments. And I remember when it happened to me. I remember. And so that's one of those things that you gotta learn to live with. And you're gonna see it here too. Watch. So this is now, this is just, the words that they've chosen stress me. So Eretz does not look feminine at all, but it becomes artsot. And I want to point out that this is the exact same thing. I'm going to zoom back a little bit. And I want to show you that, see how this was an and it goes to This one, Eretz, is an and it goes to It's just that I can't have a moving shva by itself under a silent consonant. So I have to have a composite vowel. That's why it's the exact same thing as melech turning to milachim, and this is eretz turning into aratzot. And just like our mind was blown when we went from melech, which is a word that we know has a final chaf, and then we go to melachim, where it's not a final chaf anymore, eretz has a final tzadi, and it can't have a final tzadi when it's in the middle of the word, when I just added the plural ending. Let that seep in. Then we have Shabbat, which is a feminine noun because it ends in a tav, and it goes to Shabbatot. Now, the nice thing about Shabbatot, out of all of the other words that it's chosen to use as its sample letters, is that you don't have to do anything to the inside vowels. You don't have to do anything to the consonants. You just slap on an oath. That's something that's helpful. That it ended in a tav, so it was feminine, Shabbat, and you just add an oath at the end. That's nice. That's not what's going to happen all the time. We're going to look at other things. All right, so we're going to come and learn some more rules here, and we're going to have a chart of all kinds of crazy things. So they're going to tell you in English and Hebrew, nouns are made plural by adding endings to the singular forms. We get that. Yeah, Marla, go ahead before we move on.
What isn't clicking with me, if you could go back to where we just were.
Absolutely. And it may be easier for us to look at it at this chart, but that's okay.
And I may be asking the question too soon.
That's okay.
What is it, the that has to change the vowels?
So I will tell you,
always the vowels will change?
If you have a noun that has an in it, it will always change to a this. If you have two as together, it will always change to an and it's just a helpful pattern for me to let you know. You didn't have to know that that's a pattern, but I think it will make your life a lot easier to know. And so if we look at this chart, for example, these are a whole bunch of nouns. It says all of the nouns you've learned so far and their plural forms. So if we look, we see an turns to an we see an turns to an but this case, remember, under an aleph, I can't have just a regular moving shva. I have to have a composite shva. Now we're going to have a davar, and that turns into an but not for the same reason. That turns into an because of this propretonic reduction of the kamats. And you're going to see that for nothing else in this list, but you're going to see it very consistently for other things. We don't have another noun that starts with a kamatz that's a two-syllable word. We have av, and av we just add ot to. So I want to show you, so you get it, but is always going to go to Does that help?
Yes.
And it's going to help if you're going in the other direction. If you see an it's going to help you to know that there's an word, that was the singular. So let's take a look at this. Sometimes there's some vowel changes, as we said. So we already saw this one, the davar. I'm just telling you that if you start a word with a kamatz, and especially if it was a two-syllable word, and the accent was at the end of the word, and you don't have to remember this now, you'll learn it soon. I'll do a whole thing about just the vowels. Then the first kamatz, then the kamatz, not first. It doesn't matter what this second one is, as long as the accented syllable is not the first syllable, the accented syllable is the second syllable, then this is the pre-tonic. The tonic is the one that has the accent. And as soon as I add something to the end of that word, it becomes the before the tonic, the pro-pre-tonic. If you have a kamatz in the pro-pre-tonic situation, it will always turn into a shva. It will always do that. It's called pro-pretonic reduction of the kamatz, and I love that, and it works 100% of the time. It's the only word you have now that's doing it, but it'll do it every single time. So now we have the word and you'll notice we have a final mem here. And when we turn it into amim, you're going to make that mem into a not final letter, and the im is going to have a final mem because it's at the end of the word. You're going to need a dagesh in that mem, and I told you I will tell you why when you're older. Very soon. And then we have the word Shabbat.
So when making my cards, every time there's the mem at the end of the plural, it's a masculine. And every time. No,
not in nouns. That's the problem. Not in nouns. That's why I'm trying to tell you. What happens is this. Every time you see an im or an ot at the end of a word, it means it is, and 99.8% of the time, it means it's plural. That's all you know about it. That's all you know is that it's plural. You can guess that it's probably masculine or mixed if it's an im. It's probably feminine if it's an ot, but don't count on it, because take a look at this list, all right? So melech is masculine and the plural is melachim. Davar is masculine and the plural is devarim. Nation is masculine and the plural is amim. Shabbat is feminine and the plural is shabbatot. Eretz is feminine. Don't ask me why, because it doesn't look feminine, but it is because it's a place. And then aratzot. Bracha is feminine because it ends in a. And what happens here is the kamatz hey.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Yeah, you see where we're going with this? M is feminine. It doesn't look feminine, but it goes to imahot. But what happened to dad? Look what the plural of dad is. Avot. What? Why is the plural of dad avot? Did we just turn dad into mother dads? Like, no, we didn't. We just made dad plural to father. I mean, father, not dads. It's father to fathers. Why is it oat? Because it's
Why
plural.
don't they fix it?
What?
When they're trying to review the language, why don't they fix it so that it is standard rules?
Wouldn't that be nice? Exactly. Here we are trying to be nice and consider gender and gender neutrally things. And why aren't we fixing it? Because it's been like this for thousands of years. Avot is the plural of av. Now it's going to turn out that here we're not doing a 60-40 like I predicted. We're doing like most of them, ot are feminine and im are masculine, and that's very kind of them, except for this one very blaring example, blaring. But it's
Is there anywhere that there is a list that you can just learn, these are masculine words that end in ot, so you can memorize those words that way?
Excuse me, what's going to happen is if you're taking our biblical Hebrew class or our prayer book Hebrew class, it will always give you the singular and the plural together from now on. And so you will know them as they're coming to you. Sorry?
So it's mixed together. So you have a Hebrew keyboard. Is that something you had to purchase to be able to type Hebrew?
No. As a matter of fact, if you are using Windows or using a Mac for your computer.
I have a Mac.
So if you either Mac or PC, or even on your phone, you can add Hebrew as a keyboard to your phone, and you can add Hebrew as a keyboard to your Mac or your PC. And you don't need to have I mean, the problem is vowels, which, by the way, even in my conversational class, I only had vowels today, just because someone asked me for it. So I did that. But and it was a cute song. You could go back and watch it anyway. They will always teach it to you. And it's helpful to learn it one at a time and not necessarily look at a whole list of these are, there's this whole group of 100,000 words that, whatever. It's helpful to learn it as you're learning the vocabulary. And each book has a chart of all the ones you've learned so far. These are the ones. And there are books, by the way, that are called noun books in Hebrew. And it's table of nouns. And it will tell you what not just the singular and the plural is for each noun, but it'll tell you a few more things that are helpful and how to use and what vowels are going to come under it. And it's in the back of our biblical Hebrew book. There's a chart that does that so that you can go back and refer to it every single time. And it's really helpful.
Okay.
But it's going to give it to you like this. You're going to see this each time. So they're going to tell you, you don't have to memorize the vowel changes. You just have to recognize them. But I'm going to tell you, it is helpful to know that there are patterns. Some of them feel arbitrary, like why does Av go to Avot? I don't know. But it does. And so sometimes, but there are some patterns. And it's going to tell you don't have to worry about it. And honestly, at this stage, you do not have to worry about it. I'm coming back to this side. You don't have to worry about it. You almost have enough words that it becomes practical to learn the rules behind it. Right now, it's still a teeny bit not practical, but you know enough that if I show you this, there's enough stuff in here. And is a separate word in English, but it's not a separate word in Hebrew. The only way to say and is if you prefix it to the beginning of a word. So it looks like it's one word when I say va'av, but in English, I would translate it as at least 2 words, probably 3 words. Va'av, you would translate as and a father, even though it looks like one word. And in Hebrew, it is one word, one unit of word. So and if I have ha-melech, which is already prefixed, the is already prefixed to the word. If I want to add and the, then I prefix it to the prefix. Is there no end to these prefixes? Well, there's a little bit of an end. At some point, we smooshed them together. So sometimes there's a vowel change. This is a vowel change. I'm adding a moving shva to the beginning of a word. This is already a moving shva under ani, I. Whenever I'm adding a moving shva to a word that already has a moving shva, even if it's a composite, I'm going to take whatever that vowel is. I'm going to use it on the vav. That's what's always going to happen. So the point here is, if you know the word ani, and you see the word va'ani, and it's not a 2 dots like this, or not a shva, are you going to know that that's and I? You have to know that that's and I. That I can't have 2 moving shvas together. But there is another case. Sometimes you're going to see it with other vowels, and it's usually for this reason. But when it comes before certain consonants, and I call them the boomp letters, if it comes before the boomps, then the v turns into an u, always. The boomps are the bilabials. I want to remind you, what does that mean? Bilabials means that we create that sound with 2 lips, bilabial, 2 lips. So I want to remind you that there were 2 kinds of V sounds. One is the vet, and the other one was the vav. And the vav wasn't a v, where you take the top of your teeth and put it on the bottom lip. That's a V like vet. But this was, if you take your lips and you shape your lips into a W and you make a V sound come out of it, v, that's what it was originally. So that's bilabial because you need 2 lips to make a v, like a W, v. And so you don't have the 2 bilabials together. So v before the other 4 consonants, well, there are 4 consonants altogether in Hebrew that are bilabials. The b, the m, and the p, and then of course a v, if it starts with a vav. So I write it, and I don't know if it's going to let me do this. I suspect it's not going to let me write on my annotating because it's not letting me point with my annotating. Yep, I'm not writing. So it's before the boomp letters, which means bet, vav, mem, and pei. Those 4 letters, it will always become an u, always. And I'll go over all these rules with you soon. Don't worry about it. But they're showing you an example here, like melech. It's a boomp letter. So m, you need 2 lips. So it's u melech or bracha. And here's the freaky thing, and I want you to notice this. This is what we were just kind of talking about, that the bracha becomes uvracha, and that means and a blessing. Would you have known that? Uvracha is the same thing as bracha and a blessing. Marla.
I'm sorry, I keep coming up with questions.
No, I'm really glad you are. This is good. This means you're thinking.
When I see of umelech, and it's a father and a king, it can be that English statement can mean 2 different things. It can be that person is a father and he's also a king.
That's right.
But could it also mean there is a father and the king is 2 different?
It could be 2 people standing there, or it could be 1 person who is both of those things. Yes.
Okay.
And it just like it does in English, it could mean both of those things. And you're going to have to figure it out in context, or you're going to have to guess, make it up. And then I thought you were going to freak out about bracha as a blessing, and uvracha, you take out the bet and you turn into a vet. You didn't freak out about that one. I'm very proud of you for that. Thank you for not freaking out about that. And we'll look at it soon, and you'll understand more of this about these vowel changes, honestly. And I'm sorry to keep putting you off on it, but I would way rather have you learn the vocabulary, see if you can recognize it, than worry about where the patterns are. I'm going to let you know that they exist in case that clicks with somebody, but you don't have to remember that they're there. Then we have the word they in Hebrew. We have hem and hen, and they both mean they. Hem is masculine or mixed, and hen is feminine, and hem is masculine or mixed. Hen is feminine, and some people like to remember that hen is a female. If you were brock, 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 kind of a hen, that one freaks me out because then I'm thinking about 2 different words at the same time. But if that's where your brain goes, you could do that. But here are some sentences so that you could see what we're talking about. If I say hem avot, remember that av is singular and avot is plural, and it really doesn't matter that's an ot. They're still guys, just the fact that they're fathers, they're still guys. Hem avot, they are fathers. Hem. Hen imahot, they are mothers. Hem Avraham uMoshe, they are Abraham and Moses. It's still going to be hem. Hen Sarah v'Leah, they are Sarah and Leah, and I'm going to need the feminine. If it's a group that's masculine, so they're saying both. I like to call it mixed because it ends in m. It's got the m sound. Hem ha'av v'ha'em. They are the father and the mother. It could have just said av v'em. It didn't have to be the. And it would have been masculine and feminine, and it would still be mixed. Hem, Moshe v'Leah. They are Moses and Leah. It's still mixed. So it's going to be hem because is masculine or mixed. And just like in English, it could be, we were talking about the it thing, that what does who mean? Does it really mean it to an Israeli? And it doesn't matter if it means it to an Israeli or not. We need it. So it's going to be they. And we already talked about, I hinted to the fact that these is masculine or feminine. It could be Ele ha'amim, these are the nations, and that would be a masculine. Ele habrachot, these are the blessings, and that would be feminine. It could be Ele ha'av v'ha'em, these are the father and mother of this person, and it would still be Ele, these, okay? Same thing, and let's see where we are, and then we get to our exercises. So that means I've taught you everything you need to know, about these words. Work on the exercises. Remember that the answers are in the back of the book. Try them, especially the ones that go from Hebrew to English. So you're translating them. That's more important, especially since you're learning prayer book Hebrew, than being able to translate from the English to the Hebrew. If you feel like you're getting good, try it that way and see if you got them correct by looking at the answers. And if you've got any questions about that, you can even email me in the middle of the week and say, hey, I did this, and how come it's saying that, for whatever it is. Yes, Berta.
Ayla's green, or is it?
Yes, I would make Ayla green.
Okay.
I would make Ayla green, which means that was her, you missed that. She's coloring.
My code.
Yeah, her code. So today, for this level, we're doing masculine, feminine, and all of the above.
But I don't want to make my flashcards a mistake and then learn it that way.
No, but the problem is you're also going to want to turn your flashcards into other categories of things. Something that is, an Ayla green for this week. By next week, it may be something else. You'll see. That's why I give you the color inversions, because then you may want to make it something else.
Okay.
So work on those. But I also wanted to show you this, because this is really cool. So toward the end of chapter 3, where after the exercises, they give you some real stuff. So this is Sim Shalom. Sim means, they're translating as grant. I also it means make or put, to put something. Sim Shalom, put peace. Tova is goodness, from good, right? Uvracha, and blessing, and it's an U because it's a bump letter. Chen is grace. Va chesed. So the reason why that's a va is because you're going to see it be one of these often when you have commonly paired words like bread and butter words. It's ironic that in English, bread and butter, the and becomes smaller, but in Hebrew, instead of saying v, you say va, it flows better. Just like bread and butter flows better than bread and butter. So this flows better. So when you have commonly paired words, you're going to see an a. So this is chen v'chesed. You're often going to hear that. And then v'rachamim, and mercy, that's part of this. So rachamim is kind of, they call them group nouns in English. Rachamim is mercy. You could translate it also as mercies or compassions. I would have no problem with you translating it as a plural word. And then you have this word, this prayer. You know this prayer already, so let's see if we can figure this out. And they're using a conservative prayer book. Birnbaum is a conservative prayer book, but that's okay. This is Baruch Atah, which is praised are you. And then we have Adonai, praised are you. Adonai Eloheinu is our God. Melech Ha'olam is king or ruler of the universe. Shehecheanu, who gave us life, who caused us to be alive. That's the and that we're trying to learn here. V'kiyamanu, and sustained us, kept us alive. V'higianu, and caused us to arrive. Lazman, to the time or season. Hazeh, this. So we're using a va here. They want you to see the two vas that we have here. We have a list of things that God did that we're thanking God for. And that's the end of that chapter. But I wanted to show you that you've got some real applications in prayer book stuff. And I'm going to say actually even better than that. You've got some other stuff, like I would look at the avot, and I would look at almost everything you look at now is going to have samples of the things we did today that you're going to be excited to see, including those extra things like, oh my goodness, a word that I know that has that in the singular has a final letter, and in the plural it's got it turns into a middle of the word letter, and sometimes it was a ka and sometimes it's a cha. You're going to see those things more now. We good?